Hello, my name is Fuadi Pitsuwan from Beanspire. Greetings from Chiang Mai, Thailand, which is 3 hours away from Chiang Rai, the coffee that each of you are having right now. Welcome to In My Mug, episode number 629.
Oh, hello. Well, the takeover continues. Week 2. Who knows who's going to come next? Today, we are going to enjoy some delicious coffee from Foodie. So this is from Thailand, Doi Pangkhon. It's the natural. So a few weeks ago, you tasted the honey process from the same farm with Steve. But we're going to enjoy the natural. But before Roland and I taste this coffee, we'll let Foodie tell you a little bit more about it.
It's one of the biggest village that grow coffee in Thailand, and each of the family will have produce about 1 to 2 tons of coffee per year. So we work with we from that mill in Doi Pangkhon we produce about 40 tons of coffee. So that's about 20 something families of farmers and then who supply the coffee cherries to our mill there.
And for most of those families, is that like a couple? Is it like an extended family? Is it brothers?
A lot of times it's an extended family. Some of the members will come to the city to do other kind of jobs. A lot of them, like I said before, because Thai coffee is a bit more expensive, so it really incentivizes that younger farmers who may have worked as a barista before, who may have work as a roaster before, to come back to farm to work at their farm. So yeah.
And what's it like as a place? Like how far away is it to travel to the next big city? And
yeah, the thing about most of the coffee growing region in Thailand is that it's really close to the airport. So you can land in Chiang Rai city in 45 minutes. You're at Doi Pangkhon already. So from where I am right now, it will be 3 hours drive to the farm. And then Chiang Mai is the second biggest city in Thailand. So it's and we have, I think that accessibility to farms also also allow the opportunity for farmers to actually come down and learn about the coffee, about where the coffee are being served. It is very common to have farmers who roast their own coffee, brew their own coffee, and a lot of times they own coffee shop in the city themselves. So I like to say that this phenomenon of small, fully integrated coffee enterprise. Because they own the farm, they mill the coffee themselves, roast themselves, and brew and serve themselves. And then it is not uncommon to see a system relationship like this in Thailand, which is I think it's extremely unique in the coffee world.
Thank you, Foodie, for spending the time to talk to me. That was very kind. Super interesting to hear about Thai coffee and particularly how young a lot of the farmers are, how they often own cafes, a lot of them have been baristas, they've been involved in that side of it. And a lot of Thai coffee, in fact, doesn't leave Thailand, especially coffee often stays there. That's why it's so unique to see it.
I think Thailand is one of those countries where it's not just a producing country, right? It's both.
Yeah, and it's actually that consumption that's really driven the move from the producers and the farmers there to try and create really interesting, exciting coffees. I think this is a really interesting coffee. I hope people will agree with me. How are you brewing it, Dale?
Badly. I go for a classic hand recipe from back in the day. So 24 grams of coffee, pouring on 80 mils every 30 seconds. So I'm now at 160 mils and I'm just hitting the 1 minute mark. Just keep it really simple, really constant. I haven't tasted this coffee yet. So starting with that kind of recipe where, will kind of give you a nice safe point for almost any coffee. And then you can begin to adjust how much coffee, the distance of time between each pour, or how much water you're pouring. You can pull out one way or another depending on whether you really like the texture or you really like, the acidity or the flavors. So what should I expect whilst I'm brewing? What should I be smelling?
So this is a natural process coffee. Buddy was saying how Thailand this year, they've had a really hot summer. They had a lot of hot weather and not a lot of rain, which means that the natural processing this year is really elegant. So if you had it last year, it was quite kind of brewed strawberries. This year, we're much more into kind of dried fruit. It's a little bit more elegant. Really makes me think of like Christmas pudding crossed with sticky toffee pudding. There's a lot of sweetness there.
Do you want a horrible taste descriptor just to add into the mix?
Go on.
It's not that it smells bad, but smelling it now at the top of the Kalita, it smells like clean potting soil. It's got a really nice kind of, not dirty, but like an earthy smell to it. It's not like funky from just from that wet
It's definitely
smell.
not funky this year. And it's really interesting. We had a little bit of a chat beyond what we've seen in that clip, and Frida was talking about how they can control that processing by using different depths of drying and controlling it in different ways, and they can make it more funky or less funky. But this is the same kind of process that the year before gave us quite a lot of funk, and this year it's really not. So
And what caused that difference?
that's that extra heat they had in the summer, the lack of humidity. It's made them have that quicker drying, less of that fermentation flavour going on, and you've had something that is a lot more elegant and kind of understated.
So I'm brewing this through the Kalita Wave, and because I'm doing that slightly smaller brew, so it's 400 ml, it's like a 3-minute brew time. And all of those things should help give us maybe a cleaner, lighter version of that coffee. Your mileage will vary. So if you're brewing with a French press or something like this, it might really kind of emphasize that kind of heavier notes from a natural. How did the pulp natural taste, the honey?
So that's really kind of chocolatey and nuts. For me, that's a great espresso. Foodie also recommended this one as espresso. He said for him that's one of his absolute favourites because you get a lot of sweetness out of this. And it's a really sweet coffee this year.
So, I mean, filter's better than espresso, right? It's only easier for this.
Thank you, Will British Champion, for endorsing your brew methods.
You want to jump in?
Go on. I'm eager. Really hot. Really hot, so past the burning my tongue. I definitely get straight away a lot of that dried fruit character. And there is some booze there.
It's actually like that first sip is much boozier than in flavor than how it smells. Like that fruit comes out straight away, a little bit of rum and a little bit of like you say dry fruit, but also cherry.
And I think what you get is those sweeter flavors really come through as the coffee starts to cool. So as this cools down, we'll really see like a toffee caramel kind of sweetness and also like a brown sugar kind of sweetness really come through and balance that out. And that'll start to hide some of those fruit and booze notes as it becomes much kind of sweeter.
It becomes more of a rounded kind of chuggable coffee. So it's a hard question, but like a lot of people want to taste the coffees from Thailand before, other than the subscribers, but not many people get to offer them. And even I, with my experience in coffee, I've only really had coffee from Foodie.
Yeah.
So how does this compare to other Thai coffees you've tasted?
So it's worth saying this is by far one of the top couple of Thai coffees we've come across. And talking to Foodie, and hopefully we're going to share the full length of the interview, which we ran for about 40 minutes or so whilst we were chatting about it. You start to understand a lot more a traditional Thai coffee. It's mostly Indonesian plant stock, and although the terrain is a little different, there's a lot of similarities with Indonesian coffees. It's usually wash processing, so you end up with something that is fairly heavy, fairly kind of maybe towards your chocolatey, slightly earthy flavours. Where they've done examples like this, which are natural process, it's actually all about creating flavour.
Yeah.
So most times we have natural processed coffees from other countries, it's because natural processing is easy and you can do it there well. Yeah, you have a good weather for it. If you do it in Ethiopia, it's because they have the weather for it. If they do it in somewhere like Brazil, again, it's where the weather's right for it. In Thailand, the weather is terrible for natural processing. It's not a good method to do
but the cost of living in Thailand is really high. So they need to charge more for their coffee, and they can
They
only
need to create
do
those
that.
different kind of values and different options.
So they've actually really intentionally gone out to try and create something that's got unique flavours. And I think they've been really smart. Both black honey that you've had before and this natural, they emphasise those qualities they've already got of that sweetness, that heavier body that comes with the territory with Thailand. But they've also added something to it and accentuated it further.
So, weird thing, as I'm drinking it, I think like Turkish Delight rose, like that kind of floral rose water flavor. So just a hint, and that's probably, as it cools, for me, that's the most dominant kind of natural flavor. And what I like about this is normally we talk about body, and we talk about the different weights that coffees will have on the mouth, but often that comes down to how it's brewed. And because I brewed this really lightly, actually this is one where it's really showing that kind of heavy texture without it being heavy flavors.
So if you're brewing this in cafetiere or something like this, I think you'll find this a really thick, gloopy, viscous experience.
But like even like this, it has flavor notes that you'd expect from maybe a natural from Central America. It's got hints of that. But it's got the weight of, a good Brazil or a more kind of generic coffee. It's great.
Indeed. Thank you very much for joining us and tasting the coffee.
No worries. I think Foodie's going to sign this one off for us.
Yeah, that's word to him.
You don't know this, but sometimes I order the coffee myself, send it to Thailand from Hasbin, and then give them to farmers. Just so that to encourage them, this is the product, and they love it when they get to taste their own product.
That's a wonderful note for Sean. So thank you very much, buddy.
Yep. Thank you very much.
And remember, life's too short for bad coffee.
It's Roland's fault. No, it's great. It's fine in the can.